Good morning. My name is Kelly McCormick, and I'm the Director of Events and Programming here at the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining our season of ideas, our inclusion, diversity, equity, and advancement series. This is our final session in this series. Ideas is presented by Springborn Staffing and is a virtual DEI training series hosted by the Chamber in partnership with Visit Portland, where we cover various areas of DEI training in an effort to help business owners and employees create more welcoming workplaces. Today's webinar, Wellness at Work, Burnout, Balance, and Building Sustainable Teams, will be presented by Katie Smith. Katie is Vice President of Senior Living at Avesta Housing, where she leads the operations and strategic direction of its assisted living communities across Maine, bringing nearly 25 years of senior living leadership experience. A licensed social worker and geriatric care manager, she is known for her people-centered leadership style, commitment to workforce well-being, and dedication to building resilient, purpose-driven teams. Like all Chamber's virtual signature events, today's presentation is free and will be recorded and made available for replay on the Chamber's website and YouTube page. To keep up to date on all Chamber news and events, please visit our website, portlandregion.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media. Before we begin today's program, I'd like to remind everyone that we're using a platform called StreamYard. This platform provides improved production and interactive elements that enhance virtual events, and it will be live streamed on our YouTube channel. If you have questions for our presenter today, you can type them in the YouTube chat throughout the presentation, and Katie will leave some time at the end for Q&A. And now I'd like to introduce Kurt Gunderson, Senior Recruiter with Springborn Staffing, our Ideas Presenting sponsor.
Thanks, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kurt Gunderson, and I'm a Senior Recruiter with Springborn Staffing. Thank you so much for joining us today. We at Springborn are incredibly proud to partner with the Portland Regional Chamber in presenting this Ideas series. At Springborn, we are very attuned to how important wellness at work is for ourselves, our candidates, and our clients. We hear from candidates every day how important it is and work with our clients to help create a sustainable and balanced working environment. Today, we are super excited to hear from Katie Smith of Avesta Housing, as she helps us better understand how to create an environment conducive to wellness and balance at work. As I said, I'm super excited about this topic. So Katie, without further ado, I'll send it over to you.
Well, thank you, Kurt, and thank you, Kelly, and the Portland Chamber for asking me to present on this topic. It's something that I've been wanting to share my thoughts on, and this was the opportunity to gather my thoughts into what I hope you will find a cohesive program. So wellness at work, burnout, balance, and building sustainable teams. Today, we're going to explore what that looks like. And either you're on a team, you lead a team, you manage a team. So whether any of those apply to you, this session is for you. I will also note that I'm not going to read every particular slide. However, the slides will be available should you want them at the end of the presentation. So the first part of the session is going to focus on your role as a leader. How important it is for a leader to take care of themselves, to take care of teams. You've all heard the saying, or I hope you have, that you can't pour from an empty cup. I know that everyone that's been on an airline has seen the presentation with the exits, and when the mask drops, you put your mask on yourself first, and then anybody that you're taking care of. It's the same philosophy that applies. When leaders are depleted, clarity, patience, and emotional regulation tend to drop. And when that happens, your teams feel it. The waterfall effect is what I like to refer to as the best leadership practice, is when leaders practice self-care, they are able to pour that into their teams. The bottom line here is that if you're in a leadership role and responsible for a team, leadership, your responsibility is to take care of yourself. It's not a luxury. It's actually should be part of your job description. So leader self-care improves staff care. There's been many studies that have linked leadership self-care to healthier leadership behaviors, which translates into staff care. Leader self-care is related to staff care, which relates to employee health. So when leaders come and they have their cup full, they lead better. They lead in ways that protect their team and their team's well-being. So the ripple effect of leader exhaustion. One thing in business that seems to be true for all organizations or companies is your ability to change as an organization. There's been many studies that have shown that organizational change, your ability to change as an organization, lessens as your leadership style. I'm not saying that right. Okay, this is live. We can't do a little retake, so we're going to start that one again. There's evidence that shows when you come to work as a leader and you're exhausted, you've taken on so many projects, you're overextended on committees, on boards, on whatever else that you're trying to accomplish, your leadership tends to be more laissez-faire. And that translates into the team having a lower psychological safety, which dampens the team's readiness to change. So the bottom line is that leader depletion doesn't stay private. It changes how teams experience work. And as a leader, I lead a team, so it's my responsibility to make sure that the way my teams experience work is productive, is positive, is that Sunday feeling that there's no dread for Monday morning, that people want to come to work. So what leaders should know? Leader self-care does matter. And this one really surprised me, but not for the reasons most people think. So when I first thought like leader self-care, it would matter because if the leader's taking care of themselves, the staff's going to emulate what they're doing. Well, that might be true. It's not the main reason. The biggest impact of leader self-care is how leaders lead, not whether employees copy their habits. So leaders that protect their own well-being tend to make better day-to-day decisions, show more concern for employee workload and stress, and create healthier work environments. And this is the real takeaway. Self-care is a leadership capacity strategy, not a wellness perk. I'm going to say that one again. The key takeaway is self-care is a leadership capacity strategy, not a personal wellness perk. So what leaders should know? And this probably resonates. If you're coming to work depleted, how do you feel? How do you show up for your team? Empathy drops. Stress tends to spread, and staff care erodes. However, when leaders are resourced, when you're coming to work with a full cup, leadership quality improves, employee health improves, and teams are more sustainable over time. You don't pour into your team by doing more. You pour into your team by protecting your capacity to lead well. And I'm going to put a little caveat here. So and it's shocking because I know I look very young, but in my 25, flirting with 30-year career, I used to think that being a good leader was doubling down, was taking on that extra project, was the one that would stay till 8 o'clock at night and come back at 7 a.m. And what happened is I got exhausted. And all the things that I shared earlier on, my empathy dropped. I had short patience. I was probably I was more direct than I needed to be, and I wasn't leading well. When that shifted and I started to work what I would say normal hours, 8 hours a day, put some wellness in my life, I'm showing up so much better as a leader. I have empathy, I have compassion, I have something to pour back into my team. And I always thought before I made this shift that if I did more, if I stayed on the floor, if I work in senior living, if I helped my team to the point of my exhaustion, that I was being a good team player and a good leader. And it turns out the exact opposite was true. So there's so much research behind this, occupational health and psychology, that the leader state can become the team's climate unless we interrupt the cycle. And that's what I'm sharing. If you're a leader and you're not taking care of yourself, the next part of this program is going to talk about tips, wellness tips, which you can practice if you're an individual contributor or a leader. And I invite you to put them into your daily routine so you take care of yourself, because the goal to a team's health starts with the team's leader. Sustainable leadership starts with a full cup. Self-care is a system strategy for sustainable leadership. It's not a personal wellness perk. That's one of the key takeaways. A regulated leader creates clearer decisions, builds stronger trust, and a healthier culture. Your well-being is part of your job as a leader. Your team feels what you model. So some practical examples. And the next part, we're going to get into the 10 tips, which you can put into action right away. As a leader, make self-care visible. Take your breaks. If you're eating at your desk for lunch, stop it. Get up, take your break. Use your paid time off. Take your vacations. End meetings on time. Build recovery time into the calendar. Use micro resets. We're going to get into that in the tips. And name it out loud. I'm taking a rest so I can lead well. I'm going to share a personal example of this that occurred in my life about a year ago. So I work for Avesta Housing, as Kelly and Kurt shared. In last July, we got a new CEO, which means I got a new boss. And that can be a little stressful. I had planned way back before the new CEO started, like I think in December, I had planned a trip to Italy with my friends. And we were going in September. And my new boss started in the middle of July. And when the new CEO started, one of the things that a new CEO does is look at their executive team. And there was, all these meetings and strategic conversations and business lines and, really taking a deep dive into what everybody does and the composition of teams. And I started to get a little nervous about my trip to Italy. And I thought, should I be going to Italy right now? Is this really good for my career? Is this a good time for me to be leaving the country for 9 days? And I went back and forth about this for about a week. And then I landed on, if my team and what we've established over the course of the last 6.5 years that I've been with the organization can't sustain me not being there for 9 days, then I probably haven't done a great job. And, I'm really not that important to the day-to-day running of the organization that I can't leave for 9 days. So what happened? I went to Italy and I got fired. No, I didn't get fired. I enjoyed Italy. And here's me in Italy with my friends. I am doing tours. I had a great dinner. I laughed by the pool. I explored some tastings and I had a great time. And if you can put yourself into what's the worst case scenario, and then you can sort of live with that. Like the worst case scenario was that I would have gotten fired. Very highly unlikely. However, my health, my well-being, my time away to come back refreshed, which I did. I came back refreshed with new ideas, new energy to pour into my team. And that is really the goal here and part of what I want to inspire other leaders to do. So I hope I've conveyed why it's important for you as a leader to take care of yourself. It's not only important, it's part of your job description, and it's part of your responsibility to be able to lead well for your teams. What actions can you take to model workplace wellness and self-care? So this applies to whether you're a team, you're leading a team, or you're an individual contributor. These are 10 tips that you can do every day to practice wellness and self-care. Tip 1. This is my favorite one. Box breathing. And normally I would be a little interactive and say, who's heard of box breathing? And somebody would raise their hand. So in this format, I can't do that. But what I can do is model what box breathing is. So box breathing is you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. Research shows that doing this reduces stress and anxiety. Clinical guidance highlights breathing exercises as a core relaxation technique for mental wellness. And this is something that you can do quietly if you're in a meeting that you're finding stressful. You can do this very quietly. And it gives your brain a reset. Repeat this 2 to 3 times, and you will find that you're interrupting a cycle if you're feeling stress, anxiety, threatened, or just uncomfortable in any way. You can do this at any time. For example, who here gets tense emails? I know I do. And sometimes you want to respond right away. Responding with emotion is not the best strategy. So before replying to tense emails, try this box breathing. Do it around a few times, and then reply to your email with intention, not with emotion. The 20-20-20. So we saw this earlier on one of the slides, and now we're going to break it down. So why it helps? What's the research? Ophthalmology research shows that the 20-20-20 rule reports symptom improvement for digital eye strain after consistent use. If you're like me, you're at the computer a lot in your day, and it definitely has a strain. So what the recommendation is that every 20 minutes, and we've probably been on this webinar now for about 20 minutes, look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. Possibly set a gentle reminder on your device if helpful. So remember, I'm in assisted living and senior health, so my example relates to my industry. Between charting blocks, look out a window or down a hall 20 feet away for 20 seconds. Tip 3, stand, stretch 30 or 60 seconds between tasks. Why it helps. Ergonomics guidance recommends micro breaks, 30 to 60 seconds to interrupt static posture and lower ergonomic injury risk. An analysis found that micro breaks improved well-being outcomes like vigor and fatigue. Small but significant effects. So what does this look like? Stand up. Stand up. Whoops. Roll your shoulders. Gentle neck stress. Chest openers. Keep it light and comfortable. After a call, stand up, shoulder rolls, gentle chest opener, and then start your next task. Tip 4, walk 5 minutes after an hour of desk work. So, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health recommends varying posture and walking around for 5 minutes after an hour of stationary desk work. In a study, it was found that short walking, they called them exercise snacks, during prolonged sitting improved blood pressure and blood sugar. The recommendation for the maximum benefit is 5 minutes of walking for every 30 minutes of sitting. So try it. Set an hourly reminder, stand, refill your water, take a lap, return to your desk. Even a short walk is better than none. So an example of what that could look like is after a 60-minute meeting, walk to the stairs and walk back to your desk again before sitting. I love this one. Tip 5, the day end reset, logging off mentally. And I invite everyone to try this one. Why it matters. Ending the workday without mental closure keeps the brain in work mode, increasing stress, poor sleep, and next day fatigue. A brief reset creates psychological closure so work doesn't follow you home. The day end reset. Capture your open loops. Write down what's unfinished and identify the next clear action. Name tomorrow's starting point. Decide the first task you tackle when you will return to work. And say it out loud or on paper. And I love this. I've done what I reasonably can today. That validates what you've done and it gives you permission to end the workday and start your personal time. How does this show up in your work? Tomorrow, write down the first thing I'm going to focus on is staffing schedule and returning the family call. Instead of replaying these tasks all night, the brain resets and it knows exactly where work will resume. This has tremendous psychological impact. Research has shown if you don't clearly end the workday and have like a trigger for personal, it will follow you home, even if it's not apparent, like you're opening your laptop and you're working or you're on your emails working. Psychologically, it follows you home. But if you write out exactly what you're going to do for those unclosed loops the next day and put it to paper, it creates a psychological stop, which is very impactful. So tip 6, choose your top 3 priorities for the day. So you come to work, if you've done your closed loop, you're gonna probably have a good idea of what your top 3 priorities are for the day. However, sometimes the days can take a hold of you. And if you're not intentional about your day, you may spend the whole day and you're not sure exactly what you've accomplished that day. But you were very busy and you're tired, but what really did you accomplish? So this will be helpful for people who have their days sort of take over for them, which is so common. Happens to me, happens to everybody. And when you're switching tasks all the time, going from one fire to another fire, sometimes the day can take over for you, and then you're having emotional energy spent on the task switching. So instead, pick the 3 biggest priorities for your day. What are the 3 things that will have the most impact? And schedule them first. Park everything else. I like to say, this is the later list. I always say we're going to put that in the parking lot, because sometimes team members will come to me with what sounds like very urgent and important things. However, they're not my 3 priorities for the day. And I'll say something like, we're going to put that in the parking lot. Not saying it's not important, but I'm saying it's not the priority for my day. So what does this look like? And the visual is, and there's been an analogy on this on online where a professor has the 3 big rocks and he puts them in a glass, and then he asks his class, can anything else go in this glass? And they say, no, the glass is full. And then he puts the pebbles in, and then he says, is the glass now full? And the class says, yes, now it's full. And then they put the sand in, and he asks again, is it full? And the class says, yes, it's full. The point here is that the sand is stuff that is not that impactful, but it can take up most of your day. If you put the sand in your glass first, there's not going to be a lot of room for the rocks or the pebbles. Same with the pebbles. If you put those in first, it's going to be hard to put your big rocks in. So start with your top 3. For me, for an example, it could be staffing gap plan, family update calls, and budget review. I'm going to get those done. And then the smaller tasks. The tip here is to focus on your rocks for the day. Then everything else can fall into place. Drink water. A review article notes that even mild dehydration, 1 to 2% of body loss, can impair cognitive performance. OSHA materials describe cognitive impacts of hydration on concentration, attentiveness, and memory. So keep a bottle of water visible. Take a few sips at natural transitions, after calls, before meetings. Pair sips with a 10-second screen break. Before a decision-heavy meeting, drink water and look at a distant object as an example. So we're kind of combining our 20-20-20 with the intake of water. And I have my water right here, although it's in my Dunkin' Donuts cup. So this one, if you're an individual contributor, you might not have control over this, but you can mention it that you went to this webinar and it might be a good idea. So end meetings 2 minutes early, 5 minutes early, even better. That creates transition times. Why it helps. Meeting research highlights the need for meeting recovery, time to transition from meetings to the next task, and discusses links to fatigue and burnout. Microsoft research reports back-to-back virtual meetings are stressful and suggests short breaks can improve focus on engagement. And I can attest to that, especially during COVID, where I think we all had enough of virtual meetings. They can be stressful, and back-to-back meetings definitely created fatigue on my end. And having even a 10-minute break in between virtual meetings would be very impactful. So try it. If you're setting the meetings, set your meetings to end at, say it normally goes from like 2 to 2:30, intentionally set your meeting on the calendar from 2 to 2:25. An odd time, yes, maybe we'll get some attention, but you're being intentional. For an hour-long meetings, set them from 2 to 2:50. The example is that you get that, whether it's 2 minutes, if you're using 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, you get that transition time from meeting to your next task without rushing. Okay, This one's really good too. Affect labeling, putting your feelings into words. So the tip is name that feeling. This has been shown to down-regulate distress in research. Neuroimaging research reports affect labeling can diminish your amygdala response to negative emotional stimuli. So what this looks like is if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling overwhelmed, name it. So for example, I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday. I was going into a meeting that maybe was going to be tense. And I'm not saying to define the situation as being tense, like this meeting is going to be tense. What I'm saying is name your feeling. I'm feeling tense right now. Practice a box breathing and then go forward to your meeting or whatever it is. Say you're feeling overwhelmed at work because you have too many projects and the deadlines, you're not sure how you're going to meet them. If you name it, I'm feeling overwhelmed. This takes raw emotion, what your brain is experiencing, and it labels it. So it gives your brain the cognitive capacity to process the emotion. So the emotion isn't sitting there raw. It gets labeled. Affect labeling is the theory. And then you're able to process the emotion. And it's a way to normalize things. It's a way to gain mental control and clarity and to put things into perspective. I'm not saying that it's going to be a magic wand and suddenly you're not going to feel overwhelmed. However, by naming it, it gives you a tip towards that direction. And it gives your brain something to work with. It takes it, again, from the raw emotion to something useful that your brain can process into putting some normality around it or some cognition. So it's really helpful. I invite you to try it. Tip 10. And this one, if you haven't read this book or even a snippet of it, I think if you're going to start anywhere, this is a good place to start. I had the pleasure of meeting Sean Archer at a National Leading Age conference a few years back where he did the keynote address. And his book, The Happiness Advantage, is all about focusing on the right things. So what are the right things? So the Happiness Advantage shows that starting your day by identifying 3 things you are grateful for trains your brain to scan the world for positive patterns. This practice strengthens your neurological pathways associated with optimism, reward, shaping how your brain perceives stress and opportunity over time. And I think you all have the commonality of experiencing when you look for something, you're most likely to find it. So if you start your day and you come in and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, oh gosh, and it's only Tuesday and I have the whole week ahead of me, and you're starting your day from a negative perspective. And what research shows, which is most likely to happen, is that things in your day that may be challenging or negative, you're going to focus on them more because your brain is actually scanning for the negative things in your environment. If you're looking for stress, if you're looking for conflict, if you're looking for drama, if you're looking for these things, they exist in the world. And if you're focusing on them, you're most likely to attract them to yourself. However, contrary, if you start your day with, I'm grateful to be at work today and have an opportunity to help others. I'm grateful to have an opportunity to share my thoughts today around wellness at work with the members of the Portland Chamber of Commerce. I'm grateful that it's Tuesday and I have the rest of the week to accomplish what I need to accomplish in my work week to feel good about my work. Starting with something positive really shifts the dynamic for how you perceive the world. Whoops. So try it. Each day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. These can be big or small, but the key here is consistency. This daily practice helps set a positive mental starting point for the day and supports your overall well-being. So an example would be to start your day, journal 3 positive things about the day ahead and 3 things you are grateful for today and/or. So I invite you to try it right now. Take out a piece of paper and think about it. Write down 3 things that you're grateful for today in your work day. We're going to take 4 minutes to do that. Okay, we're probably not going to take 4 minutes because that's a really long time, especially when you're on a video, but you get the gist. So my undergrad degree was in sociology, and I learned this saying from my sociology professor, but the saying is attributed to W.I. Thomas. And the saying is, if you define a situation as real, it becomes real in its consequence. And I think it fits this happiness advantage perfectly. And for me, it's easy to remember. So if I define the day as it's going to be a productive day, I'm going to have impact amongst my team, and I'm going to get the budget numbers back to my finance director, and it's going to be a great day. I've already set the tone for my day. If, on the contrary, as I said, if I come in stressed about the budget, stressed about the timelines, and I start my day that way, whether intentional, I don't think any of us are writing down the negative things, but if we're thinking them and feeling them, we're setting the output for our day, and we're really putting ourselves behind the 8 ball to be effective in the day, as well as being a good either team leader or team member. So that was 10 tips. So I'm going to give you a bonus tip, and we're definitely going to have time, and I hope we have some questions because that would be really fun. Okay, so a bonus tip. If you don't have clarity over what you're supposed to do, my suggestion is to ask your team member, your manager, your leader for clarity and why it helps. Role ambiguity, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing here, is defined as uncertainty about responsibilities, expected behaviors, and standards for success. And this is a common source of role stress. Research just describes role ambiguity as impeding job demands and having negative consequences. A leader can help this by providing clarity. So what does it look like? Ask, what is the goal here? Confirm the definition of what a completed project would look like. If, for example, someone's handing a project off to you and you're kind of not sure what's expected, but you kind of take it because you're supposed to, because it's part of your role, circling back in a very professional but straightforward way, asking, what would a great outcome look like? And then putting a time on it. What would a great outcome look like by Friday? In this way, you're taking whatever you're unclear about and providing an opportunity for you to get guidance. Many times, people that and this was true of me as well. And I love when people ask me for clarity. If I hand off a project, in my mind, what I'm looking for could be really clear, but I haven't done a great job communicating that to the team member. So asking for clarity and clarity around whatever point needs to be clarified is really helpful for both of you, the team member and the individual contributor, to have some clarity around what success looks like. So we're close to 9:40, and I want to invite any questions or around anything that I've shared, or if you want to share something that I can read to the group, I'd love to hear it. And I'm going to click on it. Okay. So, hi, Kelly.
Hi.
How do we initiate a capture? Oh, okay. What indicators, should I just read the questions?
Yeah, go right ahead.
What indicators should leaders watch for before burnout becomes visible or severe? That's a great question. So amongst your team, I would say one of the key indicators would be lack of performance at work, but also calling off work or calling out, or a change from someone's normal performance would be something to definitely watch out for amongst a team member. And many organizations like Avesta have a employee assistance program that has a lot of resources. Employee assistance program that have a lot of resources. And this would be an opportunity for someone in a leadership role with their team member to say something like, Sue, you have always come to work on time, and that's something that the team respects about you. I've noticed over the last month that your attendance hasn't been what it was. Is there anything going on that I can support you with? And that's more of an open invitation to have a conversation. I wouldn't start that with, Sue, we have an employee assistance program, and I think you could really benefit from some therapy sessions. Like that probably wouldn't be the best way, or to send an email with the link and say, we have three free sessions or something. I think you should take advantage, because you might be misdiagnosing the problem. It could be that Sue's, mom is sick or whatever. And, that would require a different approach. But having a private conversation before the situation impacts the team, because what I will tell you is when an employee comes to work in a way that they haven't shown up before, everybody knows. Even if the team member thinks, they're keeping it private, people sense shifts in emotion almost in real time. And your job, having an off day is an off day, and we can all move on with our lives. However, if it becomes a pattern, it is the responsibility of the team manager to have that conversation and to offer resources to the employee as a first step.
I think we have another.
Okay. What are common mistakes? What are common mistakes leaders make when trying to address burnout? Yeah. So, and I'm trying to think back on, so I think a common mistake would be that addressing burnout can be a one and done. So having, a pizza party, or saying, everyone can go home early this day, and somehow the magic wand's going to be cast and everyone's going to be better, is, well, nice, to have the pizza party or end work early that day. You should really lean back and take a systematic approach to looking at why are people burned out? Is it a systems thing? Is it a capacity? Is it that I'm burned out and as the leader and coming to work really stressing everybody else out? Because that certainly, you as the leader could be the problem. And I say that in the most gentle way. However, as I was sharing earlier, and it's a little bit of a generational thing, sometimes leaders really think that driving themselves and their team to do more, accomplish more, get more business, do more with less is like a badge of honor. And you will get some short-term gains there. However, in terms of the long run, which one of my favorite mentors used to tell me, and this will let you know that I was amongst one of these leaders at one point, Katie, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I used to get, well, it's, but I want like all these short-term wins. But in the long run, what is valuable as a leader is to build sustainable teams over time. And to do that, you need to have a systems approach. You need to be realistic with your expectations. And sometimes that means pushing back to your board or your company in terms of capacity, because your job really is to lead well, to take care of yourself and take care of your team. So the common mistake, I would say, the first one would be to think it can be a one and done solution. It really needs to be a system approach. And there's no easy fix there. It could be a lot of conversations and it could take a little bit of time. However, keeping your eye on the North Star, what wellness at work really looks like, in my experience, I shared 10, 11 tips. Tomorrow, are you going to go to your office and do all 10 or 11? Probably not. What success to me looks like is the aggregate of marginal gains. So, that sounds a little fancy, but what that really means is try one tip. Try one tip and do it consistently for a week. And have it develop into a habit. 21 days to make a habit. So have it develop into somewhat of a habit. So at some point it's just built into your routine and the way that you operate. And then pick another tip and have that into your routine. Over time, you're going to have these 10 or 11 tips in your self-care toolbox that you can pull out and use when you need them. And how do you know when you need them? Your body knows when you need them. And if you practice them and be intentional about them, it's going to be intentional just to do it, to end the meeting early, to go take a walk, to grab that drink of water, to do the 20-20-20, to write down at the end of the day what your open loops are for the next day, to start your day with intention. That's a big one. You might want to leave that one, till you get some of the other tips under your belt, but start your day with intention. What are the 3 things I need to accomplish today? Start your day with positivity and gratitude. What am I thankful for today? And I guarantee you, if you do these things consistently, your wellness will improve.
Wonderful. That actually answers our next question, which is what are the first steps to begin implementing these processes at work? So that's great. And one thing I really like that you shared is with me offline was that you gave your team copies of the Happiness Advantage book, right?
I did. So every year around the holidays, I think that was last year, I gave them all a copy of the Happiness Advantage book. And then this year I found a self-care journal and I can share that link, and I gave it to all team members. And one of the things in the self-care journal was to make a vision board of what your self-care looks like. And then it had an opportunity to do those journalings in a systematic way. And it's a journal for a year. And, I gave myself a journal too, and I'll be transparent. I haven't wrote in the journal every single day. However, I've written in the journal probably 3 or 4 times a week since January. And to go back and look at it, you can definitely see some themes of things. And it's just shifting that internal dial a little bit to look at the world in a different way, which has immense benefit.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like someone will
Yeah.
want to link to that. So we'll definitely share that afterwards. I guess there's one thing that you've sort of alluded to, but it's around the support from other members of your team, giving each other reminders to breathe or invite one another to take a walk. Can you talk a little bit about how you can support each other?
Yeah, I love that. So say you have a coworker that is grumpy because, I think we all have worked with somebody that maybe is grumpy and comes in and says, I can't believe they're doing this to us again. And, now I have this project, or, I don't make enough money for this, or what's happening here. And, oh, now what's next? What's going to happen next? And that is toxic. It's so toxic. It can spread like wildfire. And if the leader's not nipping that in the bud, and sometimes it's hard, especially on big teams, it's hard to nip that in the bud. What you can do as a coworker, because that's really peer-to-peer is where the power is to say something like, Sue, you're killing the day. Like, like, I don't need that. Like, why do we're working hard to have a good, happy day here. And when you come in being, grumpy mumble, it's just not helpful. It's really the peer-to-peer conversations that, and I'm not saying being disrespectful or use, words that shouldn't be used, but I'm saying from peer-to-peer, that's where the power is. You need to call it out, and you need to protect your workplace and in turn, your own sanity. And, say, it looks like you're having a bad day today. I mean, I'll call somebody in at times if it's really bad and say, it looks like you're having a bad day today. Why don't you go home and let's try again tomorrow? Because it's really not helpful to have somebody pounding things and shutting doors, and it stresses everybody out.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Let's see if there are any other questions. Please feel free to drop them in the chat. I think we've got them all. Katie, did you have any closing thoughts?
I do. I was looking. Oh. So I have one journal left. So I'm just gonna. So this is the box I gave to my team.
Take care of you.
Take care of you. And I love how it was presented. And a little note on looking after your journal. So it's from Blush and Gold.
Okay.
But I'll send it to you, Kelly, with the presentation. Oh. Yeah, and it's
beautifully packaged. Oh, very nice.
Isn't it so cute?
Great. We'll definitely share a link to where to get that. That looks fabulous.
Yeah. So, and this is what sort of the days look like.
Very good.
So it's just a nice presentation and a way to, for me as a team leader, to give a gift that invites people to take care of themselves.
Very nice.
And I'd be happy to share. Yes, lovely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katie. I really appreciate your time and your energy in putting together such a thoughtful presentation filled with actionable tips that people can put to use right away.
You're welcome. And thank you for the opportunity, Kelly.
We'll have some happy workplaces here around the greater Portland area, hopefully. A little more soothed, relaxed, connected. Yeah, for sure.
And productive. All of those things, evidence shows leads to a productive workplace. You don't have to work 10 hours a day and be stressed to have productive outcomes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. With that, I think we'll wrap things up.
All right. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. Katie, thank you for your time and expertise again. This was a wonderful presentation. And as a reminder, we will share a link to this recording and any resources that Katie mentioned, and we'll include copies of the slide deck where you can find those practical tips. Hopefully share them with your team. I'd like to thank my colleague, Riley Legier, who's been running the show behind the scenes, producing this wonderful event. And another shout out to Springborn Staffing, our Ideas Presenting sponsor, and our partners at Visit Portland. Thank you both for your generous support of this series. We couldn't do this without your support. And of course, I'd like to thank everybody else for attending Ideas this morning. And that concludes our ideas for the series. And again, we'll be sending out an email with a link to the recording and the resources. And thank you again to Visit Portland and Springborn Staffing. I wish you all a wonderful day.